Okay. Hello, everyone. Welcome to SSTCI's 6th annual Women in the Arts panel, Local Women Explore Creativity, Identity, and Resilience, hosted by Elaine Robnett-Moore and featuring Shruti Mukund, Sharon Lee, Sahar Pirzada, Ali Berg, Karina Swing, and am I getting everyone? Ali Berg?
Yeah, I think you did.
Bhavna Naik, who we're still waiting for. Hosted by Elaine Robnett-Moore. We're so happy to have everyone joining us. It's always a great discussion. It's just really like a chat with friends. So I wanted to tell you about a few things we have coming up. Sahar Pirzada, who is a fashion designer, will be presenting Modesty and Fashion in the 21st Century this Wednesday evening at 7. Later on, I will put a link to register for your own unique Zoom link. We require everyone to register for their own Zoom link so that it keeps our Zoom connections private and safer that way. We don't get Zoom bombed as we did when COVID was starting out. We have some really exciting stuff coming up, including our Around the World Bazaar this coming Friday. It's an in-person event at the Silver Springs Civic Building in the Great Hall. We have 2 performance stages. It's from 5 to 10 p.m. We have Carpe Diem Arts with Lilo Gonzalez doing a children's sing-along in the atrium at 5. At 5:30, we have Positive Vibrations, Caribbean steel drum music. And then at 6:30, we have Orfea Bulgarian Women's Choir. And at 7, we have a big Bollywood, a Bhangra wedding dance event. We are literally expecting hundreds of people for that. And Shruti, who's on this panel with us, is with Alni Theater, and they are co-partnering with us on the event. So they identified the dancers, the dance instructors. So we're all going to learn how to dance at a Bollywood wedding. So bring your comfortable shoes and prepare to work up a sweat and have a great time. We will also have a women's comedy showcase, as well as Halau Nahona Hawaii. And throughout the evening, hands-on art activities, as well as Bhavna is going to do demos of henna artistry. And then we have food from around the globe. So it will be a great time. It's free. It's our Around the World Bazaar this Friday at the Silver Springs Civic Building. So hope you can join us. And now I'd like to introduce our host. Elaine Robnett-Moore is a 5th generation internationally renowned artist whose mediums of choice are beaded jewelry and the written word. Elaine has worked as an international development consultant and a master teacher in Africa, the Caribbean, Malaysia, and the United States, working with bead artists and creative makers. She exhibits internationally and is published. She serves on the board of directors and is past president of the Bead Society. Getting a little noise on here. Sorry, I got it. She is past president of the Bead Society of Greater Washington and served on the board of directors of the Bead Museum in Washington, D.C. She serves currently on the board of directors of the Arts and Humanities Council of Montgomery County. In May of 2013, Elaine was commissioned by the government of Rwanda to write the country's first training manual, Professional Jewelry Making with Beads, the 2nd edition of her book, The Art of Bead Stringing, Artist to Entrepreneur. And we have hosted Elaine on a book talk, as well as on her memoir, which was wonderful. Her bead stringing book was published April 2015 in the United States. Her book, Dancing Out Loud, Thoughts on Navigating the Rhythms of Life, is a labor of love, 16 years in the making. It is composed of equal parts experience, insight, wit, and wisdom. This book is designed to be a guide to those who strive to find the unique and specific rhythms of their life. Her latest book, Dancing Out Loud, the little book of quotes, is a companion you carry with you. Just the quotes with artwork by her grandson, Hugh Vincent. And you can find out more about Elaine's work at ElaineRobnettMoore.com. I'll put that in the chat. Welcome to you, Elaine. So happy to have you hosting our Women in the Arts panel.
Oh, thank you so much, Lisa. It is a joy to be with you again.
Yeah.
And I now have to say nothing at all because you've said it all. So I have to say nothing at all about what I do. And Lisa, I think it's important that we thank you for the work you do that brings us together and allows us the opportunity to share with others the work that we do as artists and who we are as women. And that's important. Thank you so much for that. Today's panel is amazing, and each one brings their own gifts, their own joys and creativity to the table with us. So I'm going to get started, and just a little housekeeping. If each artist will keep their intro to 5 minutes, then we can go back with questions, and we'll have plenty of time for questions from the audience, because I know there's going to be a bazillion questions. I have some myself that I've saved up. I want to start with artist Sharon Lee Minor and ask you to come forward and to give us your input as to a little bit about who you are and what you do and why.
Wow. Good evening. Good evening. First of all, everyone who's here, happy Women's Month. And I hope it has been a wonderful Women's Month. I am so delighted to be a part of this panel. And I also want to celebrate because today is my mother's birthday. And she would have been 95 years old today. So I'm dedicating whatever I say, which I used to do when she was with me physically, whatever I say, I'm going to attribute it to her. As well as I have some photos of my family, the women in my family. I'm a 4th generation Washingtonian, and I am an artist, visual performance, and now I'm techno granny. Now that I've gotten into the vintage age, I'm techno granny, so I'm really doing a lot of my work on film and videotaping, been doing it for a while. So I had planned on showing you a piece of that, but I will give you the link so you can see what I did in dedicating for this evening. And that is, I have a piece that I call Evocation, dedicated to the women who eat fire. So that, I think that's everybody here. So I'm, like I said, 4th generation Washingtonian. I live in Silver Spring, Aspen Hill, and the Arts and Humanities Council has been very kind to me. And I've traveled, my art has been around the world. I traveled primarily to West Africa. And I think that's 5 minutes, isn't it, Elaine?
Oh, you have another minute or so. Go right ahead.
Okay, well, okay. I have, I make jewelry, which I was real excited to be on with you because I do make jewelry, and I'm an artist. That means that I spend my day making art, and I'm just very blessed that I'm able to do that. And also that I'm an ordained minister. So the arts and spirit and physicality of what we do is all important. And I think that's about all for now.
That's excellent. And again, so many questions because in viewing your art, it's absolutely spectacular.
This piece is actually was dedicated to my mother and is in my mother's garden, and it was shown at the Strathmore Mansion a few years ago.
Wonderful, wonderful. Thank you so much, Sharon. Shruti, you're up next, and this is Shruti McComb. I just can't tell you how excited we are to have you with us today. So if you would go forward and give us some information, it would be helpful.
So do you mind repeating your lead question again so I can make sure I answer that while I talk about myself?
I just want you at this point to tell us about you and what you do and the art that you create.
I am a first generation immigrant. I grew up in India. I moved here when I was 21. I have I'm raising two daughters who are American. They're teenagers. I work for Olney Theatre right now. I'm the director of community engagement at Olney Theatre. I'm a professionally trained dancer. I blog for my creative outlet, but right now in my life, I'm more a enabler of the arts than I am an artist, because I'm the production aspect is what is like exciting me at this phase in my life. I do a lot of DIY projects at home, but nothing that I'm presenting as public art as such, but I'm presenting people who are
Exactly.
Making opportunities for people to showcase their art. And that's giving me a lot of joy right now in my life.
That is in itself an art. And so just projecting what others do and enabling them, that is art itself. And you can't get better than that. Tell us a little bit about perhaps a production that's coming up or that you're working on.
So the thing is, as I said, I'm an arts administrator in the DC metro area. And just as Lisa shared in the chat, I also run the Indian Dance Educators Association, which is a nonprofit service organization that supports Indian classical dancers in the DMV. And as a part of that, we create opportunities for them to build professional learning and build on their own skills to be better producers of their dance. And one of the other things we do is a biennial dance festival, and that's coming up on May 13th. The festival's focus is actually showcasing Indian classical music in Indian cinema over the last 75 years since independence of India. And the idea is to kind of overlap worlds of people who are Indian cinema lovers while exposing them to Indian classical dance. And just like every other kind of classical dance or music form across the world right now, there is a big divide with what used to be elitist to how to bring it to the masses. And that is why we decided to focus through the cinema lens. So we open it up and start rebuilding audiences, because for the most part in India there is also a dwindling audience for the classical dances, but in America the audiences for Indian classical dances is from the students. And so if the students are performing, then you have parents as the audience members. But then what do then the professionals do? Because when they're performing, you don't always want to include your student population on stage. So this is how we're trying to mitigate that issue and build. And that is my other skill is or my interest is audience development, is understanding who's not in the room and how do we bridge them and bring them into the room and what would be their interest. And so a lot of the events I do at Olney Theatre too is about participatory events for the community where they come in to explore art themselves. Like the thing we're doing with Lisa, the dance class that's on Friday, we just put it out and Lisa says we have over 150 people who want to come and try Indian Bollywood dancing. And it's just exposing people to the arts and try to bring down as many barriers to use, because I'm a big believer that arts and culture is like a really powerful cultural bridge and works as great like soft diplomacy, right? I think the power of that is so much more than anything else, because you'll be like, I love Indian food. But as sometimes as annoying I get when people tell, the minute they look at me that they like Indian food, I understand they're finding the least common denominator to talk to me. That's like how they come and talk to me. And then the next step you build and then actually build a relationship.
Excellent. See, you had a lot more to say than you thought you had to say. That's excellent. And anyone who's ever seen Bollywood dancing in any of the new movies, and so I can understand why you have so many people already lined up for Friday. It's just engaging, electric, and exciting.
Yeah, and it's, again, you don't need any skills. You should just be able to listen and follow along.
Oh, that's great, because that means I can show up now.
Yes, you must. You must.
No skills at all. That's definitely me. And it's always so interesting because I come from a grandmother who had a dancing school, and it was certainly not Indian dancing, but it creates a true love for dancing, no matter what the cultural background is. It's just exciting to watch all the different options of dancing. Henna artist, Bhavna Nike, are you there?
Bhavna Naik, I don't think she's here yet.
Okay, all right.
Okay.
Okay, so we will move right along. Saher, I know you're there. And for the rest of the audience, you should know that this is a Saher original that I'm wearing. I love her clothing. And this is an ad. I expect to be reimbursed for this later, Saher.
Put on my tab. Hi, everybody. I'm really excited to be here. And it's always fun meeting new people and joining in with people that some folks that I've already been on before with. Elaine and I go way back, and I'm a Washingtonian, but currently living in Baltimore. I was in PG County for about 20 years. And I am a fiber artist. Now as a clothing designer, aside from manipulating the fabric itself, I also print on the fabric using the ancient art of block printing. And to that end, I can create my own fabric, my own prints. I cut first and then print. And that makes it so my printing follows the design of the fabric rather than vice versa. Although as a fabric lover and hoarder of fabric, sometimes the fabric leads me. So I love all kinds of fabrics. I learned to block print on one of my trips to Pakistan. My husband is from there, so I ended up going, back and forth a lot. And sometimes people come and they get married and they don't get to go back and forth, but we kind of make it a point to go back and forth because there's so much there that I love, as well as here and vice versa, for my husband. So, and also to help my daughter continue to be indoctrinated on both sides. So as being in Baltimore has been very interesting, in some ways more fruitful than Washington. And it's a lot of people don't realize how much artistically goes on in Maryland. I think there are about 200,000 artists in Maryland, not just Baltimore, but all over Maryland. So when I read about that recently, I found that really interesting. I recently participated in the American Craft Council show, and that was my first time participating, and it was absolutely amazing to be in a position to have your work shown to people who really appreciate. You know, a lot of times you can do all kinds of smaller fairs and festivals and people appreciate, but they can't necessarily afford. And, you know, you try not to price things, you know, too far out of the market. So one creates a bit, you know, a few low end things and some high end things so that everybody can maybe take part. So my journey from Washington to Baltimore was really led by a combination of family and school. My daughter went to Baltimore School for the Arts, and so we ended up spending more time than we ever expected to spend in Baltimore, finding out about what's going on in Baltimore itself. A lot of fairs and festivals going on here. A lot of artists, a lot of maker space that they're building, especially for makers. So we've been able to, you know, partake of some of that. I work though mostly out of my home studio, as most artists have to do now with the pandemic kind of curbing the income for so many artists. And I enjoy working in that capacity. And my interest in modest fashion, I guess came early. It's although I'm a Muslim, it's not because of that. It's more because I can see a change in how women present themselves. And for some reason, people don't see that the response that you get comes from, you know, what you're wearing, what you're saying, what you're presenting. And there are uniforms. People expect certain people to be dressed a certain way. So it's going to be an interesting conversation on Wednesday to see what people think about the new trend. There is a new trend in modest fashion. All of the big name designers even are getting on board. And it's interesting. It's not just covering up. It's just about the choices we make and how we present ourselves. So that is my current interest. And you know, as an artist, we all can be so creative, and sometimes we have to focus, and that becomes difficult. So I'm doing clothing, and I'm working on dolls, and working on presentations involving how to be fly and modest at the same time.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. And I can't say enough about your designs. They're absolutely earth-shaking and wonderfully on time. And look forward to hearing all that you have to say on okay. Karina, where are you? There you are. Karina Swing is joining us from New Mexico. And we can tell that by the color of the wall behind her, which is just exciting. So Karina is a marimba musician. Am I saying that right? And recycled and repurposed materials artist. The floor is yours.
Okay, hi, everybody. I just want to say thank you so much, Lisa, for inviting me to this wonderful event. And thank you all. I feel such a thrill in my heart to be with such creative people. I'm just kind of a little bit flustered and honored all at the same time. So my name is Karina Swing, and I am, I would say I'm an artist of 3 types. And actually, I want to say 4 types. The first one I'll give some little tiny bit of attention to is I, for about 30 years-ish, I was a lighting designer for the theater, the dance, and rock and roll. I studied that at university when I was much younger, and I retired from it not too long ago when I just got way too tired. Everybody thinks it's quite glamorous, but it's actually a heck of a lot of hard work of lifting and loading and all kinds of things, but it's quite exciting too. So I learned how, in that respect, to paint with light. That's how I always thought of myself as a designer, which is a very curious and creative thing to do. And you have to know a lot of the technical stuff too, which was more problematic for me in the whole as it started to turning digital, and less so in the mechanical part of it. But that did keep me up many late nights. So that's one of my skills. And the next thing that I think I'll give some attention to, which is I'm also an artist as well, and mostly quite hidden artist. But I take anything that someone else is tossing or throwing away, or I find in the yard, in the fields, and I try to make something absolutely beautiful and strong and honorable out of it. And so I don't, maybe in a little while I'll show this. This is one of my pieces, and so is that one back there. And I have a special one that I'll wait to show for this, for the questions, because I just have to say a little bit about it. But one of the things that I did when my father passed away, and the same year that that happened, I had a horse of many years and an old dog of many years, and they all decided to go to heaven at the same time. And it was very hard for me. This was a while back. And so I was outside grieving, and I noticed I was just pounding things together. Pounding. And so I was starting to create these beautiful, mostly wood and metal. That's the thing I like to work with the best, and my hands. At that time, I was simply using hand tools. And one of my friends who was very worried about me, she came over, and she's the executive director at a gallery here in Santa Fe called El Museo Cultural. And she and I know each other through theater events. But anyway, Maria came out here and she said, "Oh my God, this stuff is just amazing. You have to show it." And for me, I was kind of stunned, because I was like, this is just grieving stuff. This is ugly. Sorry to be judging myself, but I did. I was like, it's dumb, it's ugly. But she believed in me, and she said, no, please show it at the gallery. And so I did. I courageously did. And I had about 20 some pieces, and I had a wonderful reception. People really liked it. And so that, I mean, I was an artist all my life, but that was my first kind of experience, which is, I don't know, maybe like, I want to say about 10 years back-ish or something. And now I just can't stop. Now I'm like, if I go to anybody's house and I'm like, see the wood pile out there, I'm like, you guys want to go outside? Anyway, I can say lots about that. The third thing that I want to talk about is that I am also a marimba musician. And I have a marimba band called Polyphony Marimba, and I'm just tickled pink about this band. I love marimba music. I study it, I teach it, I perform it, and my band is actually going on tour, which is how Lisa and I became acquainted with each other. Our band played at her hosting in your beautiful community. And so we became friends, and she's just incredible. Lisa, thank you for everything that you've ever done for the band. Seriously. So anyway, hopefully you all at some point will be able to come and see us perform. I have booked over, well, I'm working on some, but about 50 gigs, 2 weeks going west in May and 6 weeks going east in the later part of the year, so I can share information on how people can find out where we'll be coming, and come out and see us. It's very beautiful music. Okay, and I don't want to keep going too long, but the fourth thing that I want to talk about that I consider my artistry also in my older years is the artistry of people and community. And I have to say that I'm normally quite reclusive and shy and don't like to be in big crowds, which is why I was a lighting person, because you're in the background. And but as I get older, I'm really recognizing, and especially after this last crazy thing that we all have endured and managed probably so amazingly more than what we think, is I want to do artistry with people and people gathering and encouraging and just community gathering, which is why the marimba band is so important to me, because music does bring people together. We can go out in an empty place and the music carries so beautifully. These are acoustic instruments that pretty soon there's a crowd of people just in delight and love. And also, my heart goes out to these Zoom situations and the other media where people can join with each other, just like that we're doing here in this venue. I learn so much by hearing what other people's stories are and their voices and their vantages and their intuitions. It's so invaluable to me. I mean, valuable, sorry, not invaluable. Valuable. Sorry about that. I'm not, obviously not the best wordsmith. However, I wanted to acknowledge that fourth thing that is kind of new to me, because I was introvert and reclusive, is the idea of just, I want to learn more about how to, really encourage and help further along community gathering. So gosh, that was a lot to be said. And I think I'm hoping I'm at 5 minutes.
You did. You stayed within it, I think, but we're all good. And one of the things that am I on mute or no? No. Okay. Thank you, because the technology is still a little daunting on occasion. One of the things that you should all know and certainly recognize is what women coming together can do and what women artists do. And certainly all artists, there's no question that all artists do this in one way or another. But I think I'm a little partial that women especially do this, and that is to embrace other artists and up and coming young people and to help them find their gifts and to motivate them to express themselves. The panel that's here today is an example of women who contribute in more than one way. Yes, they're artists. Yes, we are artists, but that doesn't stop us from sharing what we do and from sharing with up and coming artists how they can project who they are and establish themselves in this field. It's so important, and it is so much a part of what we do and who we are. And that I can't say enough about that. We're going to explore some questions now. And the first one is, how does creativity play a role in what you're doing as an art or as an individual? And let's talk about that a bit. I like to think that as women, those of us who are mothers definitely understand creativity. Before we ever realized there was an art to what we were doing, or an art aside from raising children or doing other things with community and family, we were already exemplifying what creativity is. Because if you can manage a budget, hold down a job, and still be involved with family, trust me, that's creative. So go forward from here and give us your own individual take on this. Sharon, can I call on you to start this ball rolling?
Okay. Creativity. And I think your point about creating a family is a great place, because I think the greatest creations I've ever made are my 2 children. And I didn't do it by myself, and I certainly didn't, and because of the way I was raised, creating community has always been very important to me. So creativity is always about extension to community. And I love what Karina said, that the idea of our being able to get together online has become a major issue with me. The idea, as a matter of fact, I do everything virtual. I'm not out and about. I've done performance, and I've done galleries. I've done art, that wearable art. I mean, I've done all those things, and they've been very, very public. So I have that extroverted training of being out in public. I'm not there now. I'm now very introspective, very into looking at what's happening in the world, and looking at how can we make community better. And so virtual, I know that the way many people got into it was because of COVID, but I've been doing filmmaking and virtual and I've been doing that for years. And so, as I don't know, a few people I know, when COVID did hit, I was like, wow, now that means virtual is going to really explode, and we're going to have this community. We can go anywhere. And the backlash was crazy for me. And so I have made it a real soapbox thing, an advocate for virtual community building. And I do that. I travel around the world. I can be in 3 different continents in one day. And so my creativity expands beyond just making things, but making things that motivate others. And I share with, I have a free drawing clinic that I do once a month online, third Thursday a month. And I don't know who's coming, and I don't know what we're going to do as such, but it's a wonderful opportunity, and something always comes out of it very satisfying for everyone. And so I find that the idea of creating, and I do a lot, the pieces that you see on the back of my this is my technology studio. My making studio is in my lower level of my home, but the pieces that you see there represent some of the work that I do based on people, and you see my man wall. Okay, I'm a woman, and I've always said that I'm a man's woman, if you understand. I that whole relationship of men who love women and women who love men is a beautiful thing, and it inspires me. And so I have my man wall of all the great men who have all passed, really, who have all but my grandson. And so the whole creativity process, and I think a lot of African and African-American aesthetics is based on our relationship as community and as in people. I have a lot of people in my work. And even when I'm doing things, it's always about people. And so I didn't mention that my other name, I have lots of personas. And so there's Techno Granny, who's all with the virtual, but I'm also Auntie Africa. And Auntie Africa has taken on such a life of her own until I'm trying to catch up with that. And that has a lot to do with music. I make music on computer. That whole CD that I did, Auntie Africa, was done on the computer, all the music and all the voices of mine. So creativity, and I've often said this as a university professor and in teaching, my first job was at the DC Recreation Department way back in the day when I was at George Washington University studying. And I've always said that, creativity is something that it becomes really important for you to love people, love yourself, love who you are, love your culture, and then you can explore others. So that's basically what it means to me. I did want to ask you, though, Elaine, a question. I know that you're supposed to be interviewing, but I want to ask you a question because I know that you're a Washington. Well, you said you're from Philly, right?
Right.
Okay.
Right.
And so
well, I was born in Philly, raised in St. Louis, and this is home, and this is where I love.
Okay, because I wanted to know, because when you said dance, dance is a part of your life.
Right.
And I know that, we're around the same generation. And so it's like, what was the name of the dance school that you said was that influenced your?
It was the first African-American dancing school west of the Mississippi in St. Louis, and it was Mildred P. Franklin School of Dance.
Okay.
And that was my grandmother. And when she passed, my aunt, Mildred Lorraine Franklin, took it over and continued with the work. And they taught ballet, tap, and toe. So they did they did both, and jazz as well. So they did a little bit of everything. And it was an exciting time.
Well, it's interesting because when you said that, because I grew up here in DC, and the same thing that you described is Northeast Academy of Dance with Bernice Hammond Jackson here. And I think every community, I'm an anthropologist too, so I go over, I'm always collecting stuff. And every Black community had that kind of dance school that was like a finishing school, a charm school. You learn how to be in the world. And so I was excited to hear that, because that's another woman. I did a piece. I wrote a paper for the Association for the Study of African Life and History. And I used this, I've been doing a series of paintings called Women Who, and this one was Women Who Swallow the Ocean. And it really is about women who prepare the next generation to move out into the world.
Exactly.
So, so I think that answers that question.
Happy to be of service to you. True. Okay, let me also mention one other thing. I think that for me, I just have to say that I have 5 children, 18 grandchildren, and I think it's now 12 great-grandchildren. So I'm a firm believer that we do what we do to pass on to the next generation and the generation after that. And I can assure you that several of those descendants of mine are artists, and I'm very happy to say that. It's just a very exciting. In fact, I just finished with one of my grandsons who is abstract artist in St. Louis, and we worked on submitting a proposal for him last night, which did hit the deadline, which was today. So we're moving right along, and it's so exciting watching the generations that come after us, and what we can do to instill in them what they need to be able to accomplish whatever their goals are, whether their art is an art form we recognize as art, or whether their art is in an area that we don't necessarily associate with art, but there is always an art to everything. So, and I will shut up now and go on to the next. So Shruti, are you ready with your creativity and how you see that?
Yeah. So there are multiple ways I, find creativity in my life. One is working for a nonprofit, using limited resources to create an experience for my patrons. I take pride in that creativity aspect of it, because it does take some reimagining resources, right? And sometimes it's just not the money, it's just the way you make it happen for people. So that's definitely creativity. But also, I think in some ways it's also how we create our, when they talk about cognitive behavioral, therapy and things like that, where you reframe your day, your mind, your purpose to life. I feel that going, like when you were saying, Sharon, when you said you're introspective, I feel like I every so often keep checking in, and I'm like, where is my core? What am I doing? and how do I recalibrate myself creatively and not be driven by some other stress, but it's where I'm creatively finding creative outlets and finding joy in doing what I'm doing. And I think, I mean, many of you here have children, grandchildren. I'm raising 2 teenagers right now, and it is the throes of parenting. I think this is the most tested I have been as a parent, and how I can be creative while also being supportive to myself and them. That's where I'm creating right now. Because I think finding that sweet spot where I'm still being supportive to them, but at the same time, I just can't take on the burden of this emotional rearing of sorts, right? And so, yeah, and I think for me, the pandemic was, it was a forced pause, like it was for many people, but that was the first time ever in my life I had stopped, because I was a kid. I was 21, I was married, I had children, then I was working, busy. And suddenly I was just like, wait, no one needs me anywhere. My kids are home, everyone's home, no one really needs me. What do I need? And finding that space and creating that space for myself, now I keep like, I want to go back. How do I come back to that center? And so the other thing, like you were saying that you become virtual and things like that, for me post-pandemic is like, how do I find something artistic or creative to be involved in somehow, at least a couple times a week? Because I was joking to one of my neighbors. I said, sitting on the couch in suburbia and watching Netflix is the slow death of my soul. So, I mean, not to say there's not creative stuff on TV, but I just find I need that fourth wall broken where I'm in it, where I'm participating in some way. And the most joy I get is out of dancing. So nowadays, I mean, I've always danced, but I now just dance for fun, and I'm not performing. So I think that gives me a lot of joy. And we create little dance reels at every party I'm at now. Wherever I'm with people, I'm like, come, 30 seconds, let's do this together, dance.
Beautiful. It's so interesting, all the different ways that we as artists do what we do and are creative. Sahar?
I'm listening to everyone talk about how they balance, and I don't know that I will ever reach a balanced point, but I find a lot of creative energy in kind of staying true to myself in terms of what I want to create, but being able to move, with the flow of what is happening, to a certain extent. I'm a child of being in between, not having the internet and having the internet. My mother used to say to me, I don't understand why there's no film, because she was an artist, and she used to do photography as part of her job. And she couldn't understand. I said, Mom, don't worry about why there isn't any film. Just understand that this new thing works and just use it. So learning how to just do marketing, a little bit of marketing on the internet has been a creative process that is just starting to reach me, why it's important and how it's important. And Sruthi, what you're doing is with the Olney Theater is very important. My daughter is an actress, and she does the community outreach for a theater that she helped found in San Francisco. And bringing people in is very important. So that should heavily satisfy you, because a lot of young people haven't haven't been to the theater. They haven't seen live fashion shows. They haven't seen a lot of live creativity. So we're at a stage where it's important that that we have the internet so that everybody all over the world can see a lot of different things that they wouldn't ordinarily have access to. But then it's also important that we maintain that creative process, that natural process that needs to always remain. So, mentoring some kids and teaching kids and helping to get kids to understand that, the chicken nuggets come from a chicken, so they don't understand that when I'm block printing, the transition from me working with my hands, there's a big transition to digital art. And there's a big, controversy about it now. I really like how I look digitally, by the way. So, so while there's, I have a question about it, at the same time, it all has its positive parts. So there's a lot going on in the creative processes in trying to balance those things, trying to figure out how we can maintain all of our natural processes. And that includes, still growing our own food and recycling and not destroying the earth, while at the same time, moving ahead with technology. I am only an individual person doing my individual thing to at least use all that I have. I have so many boxes of fabric. And so, part of my process is, okay, I've got this coming up and I need this merchandise. How, what do I have that I can use so that I don't just constantly buy fabric, which is, an addiction. So to try and keep control of that and learning not to leave such a large footprint. Fashion is the industry that leaves an awful lot of trash. As a matter of fact, it's one of the largest waste makers. And I don't want to be a part of that waste making. So I'm learning how to be creative within certain parameters and understanding that I can probably be just fine living off of, maybe 1 million. I don't need 8 billion, but 1 million would be nice. But I'd be fine just being comfortable and, being able to have my creativity without having to have another job. I have never worked long-term for anyone but myself. And it's something that ain't for sissies. That's for sure. So I'll leave it there.
There's no question about that. One of the things that's interesting about this collection of artists is that we scan several ages with this panel, and yet all of us have had to wear lots of hats to be able to get through any given day as an artist and all the other hats that we wear. So we have to do both the art part, which we love, and then the technical part, which we are sometimes lost in, but we are those who are able to adjust and adapt, and that in itself is creative. Karina, where is your creativity other than, and by the way, that idea of being in the background doing the lighting, trust me, that's art in itself. So, own it and go on.
Yeah. Wow, this is amazing. I love everything that everybody's talking about. And I do commend all the mommies and the poppies who are doing the true creation of bringing up children. I don't have any of my own. I do have two that I somewhat feel responsible for because my husband has two beautiful young people from a previous marriage, one of which will be touring with us. And just that last thing that was said, let's affirm that we're all going to manifest huge amounts of prosperity for all of us and our students so that we can always just forever make art of whatever our skills and talents are. I think for me, the idea of creativity that's coming into play, during the last wackiness, and very strongly right now is twofold: safety versus the super challenges. And so some part of me feels like in order to be creative, because I just can't help it. I mean, I really can't. Even when I do my plate and I'm eating, I'm like, oh, well, lettuce goes there. And but how do I be creative when I feel safe? Or how do I be creative when a lot of the challenges are coming? And I'm sure we all probably have that, where it's like, sometimes it's like, yay, everything's delightful and this is great. And then whomp, like, how am I going to manage this? How am I going to manage that? And what does that do to the creative side of us and me? Like, I feel like, again, I do feel like there's a part of me that's blessed. I can't help but create. And I've got all kinds of different things in process and progress. And I have a really hard time finishing things. So that's a flaw. I have to push myself to finish things. But I notice that it's sometimes when I feel very safe and very comfortable that a certain kind of creativity comes about, and I can go for hours and into the evening. I've even had characters in my lives that are like at nighttime, they're like, you can't see anything out there, come inside, because it's dark, but my eyes have adjusted and I'm still doing something. And then there's other parts, lately, I will be honest with you, this week in particular, huge, stunning challenges where I'm just like, I don't even know how to navigate. And I have found myself trying to tend to things and noticing that I'm not doing the creativity. Or if I am, it's got an interesting manner to it. And I think that I was reflecting when you all were talking about being parents and having children, and surely those are the biggest challenges of all, and the probably the most sacred too. Wow, honor to all of you that are in that position. But I think that's what I would want to speak to about creativity, I guess, is like the parameters of your environment that you're in, whether it's for yourself or are you in a teaching environment? Do you feel safe? Does the challenges of the family and job and money and commitments and stuff, do they overwhelm or do they inform? So I don't know that I have too much more to say to that, but those, I think, as far as creativity goes, those are coming in to me very strong, because a side of me wants to say, I just want to feel safe. I can create when I'm safe. And yet, forget it. Safety maybe lasts a day or two, if I'm lucky, 3. It just doesn't. Like, the gunas got us going in this crazy, ocean of change. And so yeah, like, well, how are we informed creatively by whether we feel safe or whether we are challenged, and how do we tackle it? I guess that's what I like to say about concerning creativity.
That's wonderful. Thank you, Karina. I think that one of the quotes that I believe is just profound and applicable all across the board is the African quote that says, it takes a village to raise a child. It isn't just children from our wombs. It is the community around us, those who are learning from you, learning from us. That is the community. That is the village, or that is, these are the children. It doesn't matter whether they're 10 or 90. They are the children of the art, and they require of us attention. So you've already said that you are teaching and working with people of all ages. They're your children. So give it up, acknowledge that you have them, and just keep going. That's one. And two, it is a village. And so we are all here to hold up each other when any one of us is facing challenges that we're not comfortable with, and or that we need help with. And so there is that. And I'm sure that we will address some of these issues. Please save your questions to later on. I just get to say something because I get to be the spokesperson at this moment, but that's taking a liberty. I'm going to shut up now. Our next question is about identity, and how is your identity expressed within your work, or within you? How is your identity expressed? How do you acknowledge it? Or do you feel that you acknowledge it? Sharon, I'm right back to you.
Okay. Well, and it's really quite timely that I'm seeing a signal here. It's quite timely that what Karina has said, and how I see myself is and I'm going to say it's very short. It's, I guess some people might call it a mantra, but I've taught it to people, thousands of people around the world. And it's a way of every person identifying who they are. And so it goes like this. Tonight, I am me, free, proud, beautiful, Black, and a child of God. I am proud when I sing. I am me when I talk. I am free when I dance. I am beautiful when I walk. Forever, ahora, I am me, free, proud, beautiful, Black, and a child of God. And I've said this but when I share it with other people, I want them to say who they are. And it sounds wonderful with everyone. I wish we could open up, and I have another group that we actually do things online, but it's just beautiful to hear all these voices say who they are. And then sometimes I say, now believe it. Okay. And so it's really growing up in my family of people who made things. I have always had a sense of who I was. And because of growing up in a community that reinforced that, and that's what was so beautiful, is that growing up in Eastland Gardens in Washington, D.C., which I called Lilliputian, it really was a very special place to grow up, because it was a community that was empowered. It wasn't like, I didn't know that there was a problem in this country until I went away to college. I wanted to be a fashion designer, Seha. And I wanted to make wonderful clothes. And I was just looking forward to going to New York City and Fashion Institute of Technology. And my family said, you're going to West Virginia. So I spent 2 agonizing years in West Virginia State College, but I loved it because I became an AKA, and all those things kind of embraced who I am. But in 2 weeks, I was in jail because of protesting, because I had never heard, I didn't know people had issues like they have, that we could go to a skating rink because of our color. And I thought that was the most absurd thing. And so that changed my vision of what was wrong with other people. It didn't change my vision of what was wrong with me. I was like, what's wrong with these people? And that's pretty much been my attitude, that folks have issues. Now, I spend a lot of time finding out what their issues are. I don't now because I'm focusing on my art. But I think it's really important that a child grows up knowing who they are. I knew I was Sharon Lee Minor, and I love when they say, ask you for your first name. I put my first name, Sharon Lee Minor. And, because that identity, even when they tried to call me Little Francis, my mom's name is Francis. Oh, here comes Little Francis. And I was 4 years old, and I said, I am not Little Francis, I am Sharon Lee Minor. So, it's that kind of thing that I'm hoping that I instill in my 5 grandchildren, that sense of home framework, so that when they go out into the world, they are not being told stuff that they already know who they are. And we're working on that diligently. So that's what I think, that's what my identity stems from.
Perfect. Thank you so much. And that the richness of the mantra that you used is one that we should share. And if you can do that, that would be wonderful, because I think that's a very powerful mantra.
It's on the CD. I've done 2 CDs, and one is called Selah.
Okay.
It's called Meditation. And you can go online, Google it online, and that's a whole nother issue, because I've never received royalties from any of my work. You're talking about marketing or online. That's a whole nother discussion. And but you can go on Auntie Africa music station. Auntie Africa's everywhere now. And you can go and you can ask for meditation. If you Google in meditation, you should be able to get to sample it.
Okay, thank you. Shruti, you're up. And how do you feel about identity within your artwork? Is it you that we see within what you do, even in your production and organizing? And by the way, without an audience, artists would not survive. So you need both sides of that coin. We have to have the artists, and we have to have the appreciators, the collection of those who either collect the art, attend the art, and appreciate it in some way. So
actually in Indian classical dance, and from the treatise called the Natya Shastra, there is this word that's called rasa anubhava, which means that when art is being created and there is an audience receiving the art, together you resonate in this rasa, or this energy that's created, and it's the experience of that. So it's the two souls at that moment, not to be cliche, but I mean, or trivialize that, but it is when you both are vibrating at that same frequency, you create this rasa anubhava. And it is like, whether it's an artwork, your visual artwork, or you're being in this room, when you're experiencing it together. And I think for me, that togetherness is what makes me happy all the time. And it's, be it friends, be it, family, whatever, it's bringing that people together is what I feel like I am reaching my potential of whatever it is for that moment. And identity wise, I think definitely everything I do will be steeped in this really strong conviction of who I am, where I came from. And I'm a big believer of our history informs our future. And that's where our roots is where our branches grow and flowers go, seeds go, it spreads, but then that root is what keeps nourishing us to be who we are. And I mean, it straight comes down from my 2 I mean, our families, both my grandmothers were amazing women, really strong in their convictions. They knew who they were. I mean, yes, there's patriarchy and stuff, but that's different. But in our two households, our grandmothers were the ones who kind of, spoke to the family, and things. I kind of channel them every day, and I pick one based on the day and what I need to pick from. And my mother, another like amazing woman who but then she's also ridden with like self-doubt and all the time, and we're now like, no, you're cool, you can do this, you should do this, things like that. So I think we've come to the point where now we're supporting her, my sister and I. And then my sister, another one, when you were talking about education and village and stuff, she's been running this dance school for 29 years. And her students have children now, and it's amazing to see the family and the legacy she's building with each of these kids she's teaching, because she's not just teaching art, she's also teaching them life lessons, helping them find their identity, especially because when these Indian American kids come to learn Indian dance, they're not just learning dance for the sake of art, but also for culture, for finding their like sisterhood among people who look like them. And because they're populating this world where the majority doesn't look like them, so this is where they come for that. And like Deepti becomes their like second mom. And and then I kind of bask in that, because I show up there every so often, and I get to be like Shruti auntie for that time I'm there and enjoy that. And so yeah, I mean, there's so many of these identities, or like I wouldn't say identities. I think different parts of me come out in different spaces I populate. But I think this South Asian, I mean, like, I'm not a practicing Hindu, but I follow the philosophy of the Sanatana Dharma. I mean, and not that I'm not a practicing Hindu. I don't follow like rituals, but I'm at core, I am that. So it comes out in the things I do. And my grandmother always would say, you just give for the sake of giving, and it'll come back some other way. And that's the circle of life. And that is what is my motivation when I do things. And talking about, when you were talking about Sharon, about identity, telling your grandchildren and stuff, it's like, what is it you want to perpetuate, and what of the stuff you want to erase from things that you don't want your children, you want to remove some of that baggage for each generation and help them take it forward. Because every day they're going to school as Isha Iyengar, Sunaina Iyengar, my nieces are out there doing their things, and we're constantly here saying, yes, you got this, you can do this, be who you are, stand tall in your shoes. You don't have to be anyone else. And I think that's a lesson I still get from my family, and having that support, I think, is the best thing.
I can assure you that it is obvious that you are the granddaughter of your grandmothers. It is obvious that you carry their energy and their spirit in you, and that you project that to those around you. And that's the exciting thing. You said it all.
Thank you, Elaine.
Karina, where are you?
Here I am.
And your identity, or you see identity in your work how?
Yeah, that's a great question and a great consideration. I absolutely see myself in my artwork. I think that I exude myself in my art pieces. What I thought about when I think of identity and the art pieces was courage. I feel like in making art, and also in showing who each of us is to each other in person, with people we are close with family that we love and friends, or maybe the teller at the cash register in the grocery store, or the person that is more the stranger. And then certainly on these new medias, the cyber medias, where your potential is meeting someone from, across the planet. And I know that I feel like who I am, I have to have courage to share who I am, and probably most importantly, what I'm feeling. If I'm creating something, again, I was talking earlier about, am I safe or not safe? So how does that inform my artwork? Or if I'm talking to you all, on this very event, do I have the courage to, sort of tout who I am? Or, I mean, that can be good, and it can also be strange. It can be a shield. Or do I have the courage to share what I'm going through, what I'm feeling, my trepidation about, future being with you guys, or an event coming up, or what am I going to feed my husband tonight? Do I have the courage to be authentic? Am I pretending? Am I putting on an act so that you guys will like me? Or do I share what it is I'm going through? So I think courage for me is what I want to bring into the idea of identity. And as I reflect on the question, which I think is a brilliant question, do I see myself in our art? Do we, each of us, see ourselves in our art? And I would say emphatically, yes. Yeah, I do. I mean, yes. And I can't wait to see each of you in your arts. I can't wait to dig more into who each of you are, and see authentically who you are through those manners and those means. So yeah, I just I want to bring it back to that idea of the courage to be whatever we are in today, honestly.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Beautiful, Karina. Lisa, where are we with time?
We are fine. I know Shruti does have to log off a little early.
Well, you can't go. We're not through yet. For goodness sake.
Yeah, so did we go through everyone for that question for identity?
Yes, we did.
Sharon,
Yes.
Sharon,
No, I don't think, did Sahara answer?
Yeah.
yeah,
Sahara,
Sahara.
yeah.
We can move on to the question and answer period. That's fine.
Sahara, did you share about identity?
Did you share? Yeah. Okay.
I thought you did too, but
Yeah,
no.
you shared identity, didn't you? Or did you? No.
I actually didn't.
No.
Oh, sorry, I skipped you.
But that's okay.
Thank you. Thank you,
should share
Sharon.
if you can.
Please share right now.
Yeah, no, so I can still be on a call, but I won't be on video anymore because I have to start driving to pick up my daughter from her class. And that's why I needed to get off video, but I'll still be on the phone and I'll be listening and I can answer questions. So I just wanted
Thank you.
Sorry to her. I just wanted to
Sure
tell everybody, but
Um,
this is such a lovely conversation. And like Karina said, such an amazing group of people. And see, Lisa, sometimes it would have been really nice if we could all have been in the same room drinking hot tea.
We can be all in the same room on Friday when we have our Around the World Bazaar, including
Yes.
a dance at an Indian wedding.
Yes. Yeah, and I will be there on
Friday.
Friday. So
Ruthie
maybe
will
I'll
be
see some of
there.
the events.
I'll be there. Some other people on this call will be there. I think Elaine is joining us. Okay,
Yeah, looking forward
great.
to meeting all of you some point in person. And I will still be on, but I won't be on video. That's all. Sorry.
Okay, thank you, Shruti. And and good luck with the drive. Be safe.
Thank you.
Okay. Sahar, go ahead, please. I'm sorry. I don't know.
No, that's okay. Because I know we're supposed to have a question and answer period. And everyone has said so many interesting things. I guess with identity, I started out early, kind of knowing who I was. My family always kind of reinforced certain things, and then things that happened at school would reinforce certain things. I being this pale and being Black in a time when it was not advantageous to be this pale made it so that I fought to be included, and I knew who I was, and I, sometimes had to fight about it, not physically, but certainly verbally. So, and we have always, as a family, I was very close, very lucky to have great parents who indoctrinated us into many areas. We dealt with a lot of people from different parts of the world. And my mother's, all of her brothers all married women. They all married Caucasian women in a time when it was illegal to do so. So we all always had connections with all kinds of people. And then we had exchange students. And then, I was also a DC dancer, Sharon. I was at Jones Haywood. And that lifestyle also influenced me very much. That became part of my identity. But as I got older, I figured that I would be behind the scenes as opposed to on stage. And so my identity as a designer was kind of put in place, understanding that I didn't have the body type, to really be a dancer in that time period. I would have been fine now because all sizes and shapes are amazing dancers and are being allowed to become those amazing dancers. But I, started, working with costuming, and, everyone sewed, in the family. That was, a thing that everyone just automatically did, and art was always there. So my identity has always been surrounded by people and places from around the world, and it's always been surrounded by art and artists. My aunt was a children's wear designer in New York when nobody else who was an African American was doing that, not and making any money at it. So there were all kinds of things that were there that were creative, that were became part of my identity. And I'm just influenced by anything that I see that I love, which, includes so many things from around the world. And Sharon, what you have been saying about having access on the internet, there's so many things that we would not have had access to because, how much traveling can we do and do our jobs also. But being there physically, when I went to Pakistan, I was overwhelmed. In Morocco and other places that I've been, you get overwhelmed if you're an appreciator of art. It can be really overwhelming. And you try to see, what can you use, what's going to influence you, what can you partake of without being disrespectful or without it being a cultural appropriation. And and then we find out that there's so many parts of us. If you get your DNA done, there's so many pieces that, I dare anyone to say anything about cultural appropriation, because what is that? We're all from so many different places, and we're all part of so many different things that I think you can wear what you want and be influenced by what you like, and as long as you're not hurting anyone in the process, just to enjoy, and enjoy being part of the creative process. And part of that process for me is dressing myself and dressing other people in things that make them happy.
Thank you. That's right on time, right on time. Our next question is relative to resilience. And in the interest of being sure that we have adequate time for Q&A, I would ask each of the presenters to keep it down to a couple of minutes for resilience, because of course you can sum up your whole life and how you have been able to get through it in 2 minutes, right? So if we could do that, I think it's so important. And I will share that I think that in terms of identity, as artists, who we are is in every single piece of what we do, no matter what that is. It just is part of us, and it resounds in however we are creative. There's always a piece of us. Otherwise, we wouldn't be artists if we were not including a piece of us in it, however that's reflected. So Sharon, how about resilience? How do you find, or what have you used, and how has resilience gotten you through rough times or any times?
Well, and I've put in the chat a couple of places where you can go and look at some of my work. So that pretty much you'll see or read about, like my website, you'll see things there. But I think resilience, again, as an artist, as a woman, as an African-American woman, for all those things, I think the hardest thing, the resilience is the economic imbalances of trying to juggle, because so many times I'm asked to do things, but we live in a society that commodifies so much. And so it really becomes an issue because the starving artist thing won't work. Okay, it just, that is not, and for all the things that we need to do to keep us resilient, keeping us creative, it does take money. And so that's the part that how I've been able to survive. And it ain't easy. I mean, it has not been easy to be the person that I am, because there's so little reciprocity of where people value what it is. And I saw the cutest little cartoon of just that. The art, what it was as a cartoon, was this big mountain, and underneath the water was the largest part of the mountain, and the only part that you see was the peak of the mountain. That's the art that people see, but all the work and all the effort and all the things that we have to do. So to keep resilient, it really has to do with my spiritual centeredness. That if I didn't know who I am as a child of God, and the creator has a master plan. I always say that the creator of a creator has a master plan. It would be overwhelming. And so that's what keeps me every day looking at the importance of being balanced spirituality, however you call it. I call it many names. But the idea is that we do need to have the support. Artists need to have the economic and financial support. And it shows that people love us, that we are a part of something, that we are community.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you, Sharon. Shruti, are you there? Okay. I know she's driving, but she said she would be online, so I didn't know whether she was able to respond or not. Bhavna?
Bhavna never made it.
Oh, that's right. Sorry.
That's
Okay,
right.
you guys,
Sorry.
that just means that I'm getting a little tired, but not to be confused. Well, I just do that. Okay, Sahar, can you address your resilience? And although you have addressed it to some degree, can we revisit that a bit?
I guess in a nutshell, a lot of it has been that one as an artist survives by any means necessary,
Hello.
as long as it's legal. So I have always I did early on have the support of my parents, not meaning that they had a ton of cash, you know, not that million that a couple million that Trump's daddy had, but their support just in allowing me to be myself and do what it is that I loved to do, and they believed, like I believed, that I could make money doing what I love doing. And I think everyone should have that opportunity. It's unfortunate that the need to make money kind of precludes, and I have pivoted where I've had to pivot. You know, I've chosen to do some things. I mean, when the pandemic hit, all of us designers were making masks. If we hadn't been able to make masks, a lot of us, you know, would have been sunk. And so, you know, learning how to pivot and add things that new things that work and subtract things that aren't working. You know, that's been, you know, how I've survived really. And you know, developing over the years, over many years. I'm 68 years old, so I've been doing what I do probably since high school, designing clothes and thinking that I could, you know, make money. And it's not that I haven't made money. I've made money, but I have not developed a huge conglomerate, and I'm glad I didn't, because now that's kind of not where my mindset is. So just being able to, you know, to move around also, that has been helpful, not being stuck in one place mentally. And so that has been, you know, I guess that which has been really settling, you know, for me. And I'm generally a happy person, so I always look at the glass as being half full rather than half empty. So I think that's been an important part of my resilience.
Thank you. I think that's more than an important part of resilience for all of us. And, you know, I always go back to that piece that says, if you have lemons, make lemonade. I'm thinking we have to take mud and make lemonade out of that, and with this pandemic and some of the other challenges that we have faced. But it is a matter of just reorganizing and figuring out how to get through it and moving forward. I always say that if the challenge is difficult, the reward is going to be twice as great. And I have to hold that thought, because sometimes that thought is the only thing that gets you through. I see that we have been, that we have Bhavna Nike. I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing your name.
That's fine.
Okay.
Hi, Bhavna.
Hi, Lisa. Hi,
Hi.
Elaine.
I know that you been on for a minute? Have you been listening to part of what we've been doing? Okay, so why don't we just pick you up with resilience and go forward, and you can chime in with some other things as we get into the questions and answers. How's that?
So when you talk about resilience, yes, I've been very resilient, because it's difficult to be an artist and make money in this world. And sadly but truly, the world works with money. I also feel that being resilient is easy when things are going your way, and the moment things go a little, not your way, or you have some family troubles, emotional troubles, that's where, even if you're really good at your art, sometimes your resilience can shift, or you start doubting yourself. And I think at that time you have to remember faith, just grab onto the people who have faith in you, because they are your support system. And for me, it's my husband. He'll keep telling me, you're doing great, keep doing what you're doing. And that's where, when your resilience is dying or is going low, you hook on to someone else. When your battery charge is low, hook on to someone else, use them as a hotspot, and get your resilience back.
Perfect. And that's absolutely on time. It certainly addresses the issue, no question about it. Karina, how about your resilience?
Oh my goodness, what a question. Oh, this is so awesome. My resilience. Okay, what I want to say with my resilience, I want to start with a story. So long time ago, I was making this very strange art. Mostly I use now wood and metal and screws and nails that I find, and things that can be inside or outside. My art can be outside as well. So, but at this time I was having some big challenges with a marriage. Did not work out. And I was making this very strange art using lots of glue and a lot of glompy, strange things that I didn't even know what to do with. But I was just like, blah, blah. Like I just plopped this stuff together, and I was having fun with it. It wasn't the most ideal stuff, but it was healing for me. It was healing. So how this relates to resilience is, I had, I don't know, 10 or so of these crazy pieces. And there was a guy in my husband's studio who, at that time, my husband, he just loved this art of mine. He went crazy over it. And I was like, wow, okay, because I even was questioning it. I was like, I'm really doing this because I'm frustrated. And but he loved it. So he bought a piece, which shocked me, and I was amazed. And so I felt like, oh, well, look at me, right? This is about resilience, I swear. So he came back the next week. My husband was a recording engineer at that time. So this guy was a musician, and he came back the next week. Still loved my piece, but he told me the story about the piece of art that he bought. Resilience. I love it. He said that he loved this piece of art, and he put it in the bathroom, his bathroom, hallway bathroom, and he put it up in the wall, and he just adored it. He loved it. Well, apparently the wife of this gentleman came in and hated it. She just couldn't believe he had spent any kind of money on this glompy thing. And I, graciously and gracefully said, if you want to bring it back, no problem. I get it. Collage art is weird, and my 3D stuff is even weirder. He was like, absolutely not. We're going to keep this in there. And we actually had this relationship with this musician for a few years, and the wife honestly didn't last, but I guess the art did.
That's amazing.
I just find that story so funny, because I can see where the wife, she didn't get it. Our homes are important, and we like it a certain way, but I was just, there was some ego stuff where I had to go like, oh, she doesn't like my art. And that happens a lot, but I persevered. I'm still doing it, and I keep going. And I know there's strange stuff that I make and that we all make. And so I wonder if resilience also includes like how we know we are received as artists and how our art is viewed? Like, is that part of also, I think that's what I want to just bring into the idea of resilience is,
I think that's an important factor and definitely makes some sense. There's no question about that.
Can I
Lisa,
say something here?
yeah.
Karina, when you said that, you're going through a difficult time and you're creating this art and it looks, you don't know what you picked up and what you did and how it came together. I truly, truly believe that pieces of art or whatever we create is a reflection of our state of mind. And you felt therapeutic because you didn't know how to speak to someone about your state of mind, but it all came out in art. And those 10 pieces, whether they were healing to you or whatever it is, but if you look at it, it's all your state of mind right there. And just look and you'll know that, oh, I was confused that day, or I was feeling really hurt. And you'll see sharp, pointy objects or hard angles. And the day you felt calmer, more relaxed, you will find flow in your design.
No question about that.
Aware of what you're creating and how it feels.
I love it.
No question about that. So on point. Lisa, do we have questions that we can go forward with?
Yes, well, let's open it up for questions. If you have a question, you can write it in the chat or just raise your little hand, your reaction hand or your actual hand is fine too. But if you use the little reaction, go to the 3 dots at the bottom, click reactions, and then do that. Maybe some of the women have questions for each other as well.
Absolutely.
Okay, Neha, Neha's one of our board members and a past panelist and a frequent host for our programs as well. Contemporary folk artist and poet Neha Misra.
Thank you, Lisa. And so nice to be with all of you. And Elaine, so wonderful to see you again and all of you. Thank you so much for making time. And Lisa, for always being such a beautiful bringer and weaver of artists together. So really appreciate you. My question is for anybody who may wish to answer. What has been the role of mentors for you, or any particular mentor in your life that has really left an imprint for you, and your advice for anybody else out there, who is feeling alone,
I'd like to start off with an answer relative to that, because mentors have played a very key role in my entire life. Even prior to jewelry designing and art, I had mentors in my business, which made it extremely successful. And I found that by being open, you attract the energy of those that can be good mentors to you. When you recognize an individual with gifts and or interests that you can draw from, don't hesitate to at least approach them. Let them know that you admire and respect them, and ask if they would be willing to mentor you. In art, there's Joyce Scott in Baltimore, and there's Francine Haskin, and there are just numerous artists who have been beneficial and friends. And but it's important to, 1, be open, 2, receive advice. Well, because mentors don't keep going on with mentoring, because I certainly have those that I mentor. And if I find that folks are not being receptive or not taking just solid advice, not anything earth-shaking, then there's no point in spending a lot of time with that individual, because there are others who really need the help or want some help, and you go on from there. And I'm sure there are others who may have advice along those lines.
Can I jump in for a second?
Mm-hmm.
So I think, Neha, you may be looking for mentors for in your same field, but I have found mentors in different fields. Like a photographer was a mentor who taught me how to kind of push through and run my business. And I would have never in my wildest dreams thought of this one person who is so highly rated and so highly spoken of to be able to come to my level and say, no, you got to do this. This is going to help you in your business. And, you know, it's just one small tip. Like also in my henna world, there was a mentor of mine who just a sentence of hers, don't quit, keep going. This can pay your bills. That itself was enough motivation to let me keep pushing through. Because in the beginning you feel, oh, I don't think I'm gonna, you know, like this is not worth it. Doesn't come with benefits. You're working so much. But yeah, so that was my piece of advice.
Karen, go ahead.
I wanted to add to, because when you talk about mentors, which is a relatively new kind of terminology, because my first mentors were my great grandmother, my grandmother, and they were the ones. And being a precocious child, I had spent a lot of time on punishment, and so their way of discipline was to sit me in a corner with a box of cloth and strings and things, and I couldn't come out of the corner until I had changed my disposition. I was in the corner a long time. And so through that, it gave me a time. It was like a pause. And so I find that mentoring, as I mentor young people, and I've kind of gotten it down to, I call it a system, is that I can tell when it's time to let go. And it's also important to know, just as Pauline said, that it's important if the person's not willing to receive it, then you also need to understand that, not as being, don't take it personal, but to recognize that it is something that happens in the organic part of relationships. And what I love about those relationships is that when I start learning from my mentees, that's when it becomes so fulfilling. So I think it's open first, starting with your family, if you have that kind of, you have the good fortune. And I find a lot of people don't even know that the skills that they have, somebody in their grand generations way back when was doing that. And so I was teaching, when I was at UMBC teaching a Black family, students were marveling at how they found out, because you couldn't pass my class unless you went out and talked to your grandparents and your great grandparents. And they found out all these wonderful things that you haven't. I don't know about the DNA test. That's a whole nother. I worked with the National Genome Center at Howard. But I do know that there are things that when you go back into your family, you will find, and if you go into your spirit, you will find your key mentors, and then you can then you'll attract others. At least that's the way I see it.
I think that's a good point, Sharon, and it certainly goes without saying that for me as well, it was family first and then others, but I think all of them are relevant and important. Was there anyone else on the panel that had a comment regarding mentors? I think it's so important, the mentoring and the need to have mentors, both family and otherwise, and they can benefit to such a degree how you go forward and how you accomplish what you want to accomplish. It's just really important.
I would just like to maybe acknowledge a couple of my mentors. Is that acceptable?
Sure.
I'm gonna go in a certain order. There's actually several. I think one of my main mentors was a gentleman named Heyoka Merrifield, and he was a jewelry artist. And he and I knew each other for a good 30 years, and even up until his death, which was quite recent and sad. And then there's someone I didn't know, but he was my teacher's teacher. in the marimba, which my teacher is my husband, Peter Swing, and his teacher is Dumisani Maraire from Zimbabwe. And I feel like, and I know I'm stepping maybe out there here, but I feel like sometimes Mr. Maraire is there with me when I'm learning the music that he brought to my husband and other characters that Sakuro Maraire taught. And so I'd like to acknowledge him because I think of him often when I'm playing. Then for my lighting, I'd like to acknowledge definitely an absolute mentor, Ian Rosenkrantz. And he and I, he started to be my teacher, and we worked decades together and me under him. And then I became almost like a colleague. And so that was an interesting few decades of watching me become like his student and then also an equal. That was had all kinds of parameters of happiness and also kind of jealousy stuff too, like between both of us. So that was interesting. Another person that I mentioned earlier, Maria Martinez, who's the executive director at El Museo Cultural in Santa Fe. I mentioned that place and that woman again. There's absolutely a reason why I'm not greatly showing, but why I'm showing my art, because she knew me as a lighting designer and we worked together many years in that respect. But when she was the one who encouraged me to take my art that was my grieving art and actually put it out there as a show. And she and I shared over those many years some friendships and some intense conversations about culture and humanity and people and economy. And I learned a lot from her. And the last person I think that I want to just acknowledge as a mentor of mine was my precious father. His name was Richard Boyce, number two. It's number two. And he was the kindest person that I ever knew. And he was quiet and he was loving and he was just so beautiful. And I think who I am and how I am as a creator has everything to do with who he was towards me. So I would just like to do that, is acknowledge those beautiful people and the ones that are in heaven, thank you. And the ones that wherever you guys are out there now, thank you for how you helped bring me into being more me through your mentorship.
Thank you, Karina. And I think what's really important to know is that a good mentor is really excited when the student exceeds the mentor. Or it's just, you have no idea how important that is. And generally they will state that along the way. So that's just really important. Lisa, do you have more questions?
Yes, we have another question. Well, there was a quick question from Suzanne Brenda Moore asking where Karina is. I guess she joined us a little late. Karina is in Santa Fe, New Mexico, and will be returning to our area in August with her band Polyphony Marimba. And they'll have a few performances in downtown Silver Spring between about August 8th and 11th. Does that sound right, Karina?
That does sound right.
Polyphony Marimba. They come every other year or so. Yeah, big. They're doing a big U.S. tour across country. And now let me bring in a question from Ken Roseman.
Okay. Hi, everybody.
Hi.
Where do I begin? I've been writing about music for 40 years. So, okay. I am now 71. It has occurred to me that it is possible at this age that I could find mentors who are younger. And I may, in fact, have one, a guy I've known from the English music community for a long time. I thought it was a very interesting remark about finding mentors in different fields. You know, I mean, you could just run across people by chance, and it could happen. A lot of my support does come, such as it is, comes from England, and it is entirely possible, given and that I am not tech savvy, but I've learned how to do Zoom. Is that you can, through email, Zoom, Facebook, whatever, get in touch with people in faraway places that can be supportive of what you might want to do.
Good point. Good point.
I mean, everything is global now. Is another
Absolutely.
guy told to me, and he's right. It is. You know, whether you're talking about what you want to do with your arts activity, or you're talking about the environmental crisis, or any other thing, everything is global. And I suspect that all of you, because man, I hope you don't think I'm a racist. I mean, some of you are from immigrant communities, and maybe you get some support from your native countries. And like, you know, I am not English, but for some bloody reason, I'm really simpatico with them. And that seems to be, you know, I've been into the English folk rock thing for a long time. That seems to be a place, for whatever reason. I'm a Jewish guy who grew up in Maryland and Massachusetts, and I get a lot of support from England. Don't ask me why, I just accept it. So, you know, my point to all of you guys is, you may find support in places that you might not have expected to find it, and they may not be around the corner, they may be far away. But as awkward as technology has been for me, I have been able to access some of it, and I have been able to get support of whatever kind you want to call it from people in faraway places.
Thank you, Ken.
You can.
And I think that it's certainly true and has been evidenced by the panelists this evening that we do, in fact, gather information and contacts from around the world. And I think as artists, we tend to be global children, so to speak. So our world is the globe at large.
I have a question. Could you tell us a little bit about collaboration? I think collaboration ties into so many things in terms of your creativity and your resilience. And I know I personally am always constantly trying to collaborate, like with Shruti, who's bringing the Indian wedding dance event to our bazaar on Friday night. So can you share a little about collaboration and how you collaborate with others?
I can say offhand that I always go back to the village. And so it is all of those that I know and whatever fields that they are in. For instance, with the books that I wrote, my cousin Ellie did the formatting and editing, and she's a professional at that. My grandson Hugh did the artwork for the second book, and he is an abstract artist out of St. Louis and very good at what he does. I have a daughter in California who's an artist, and she works with me on my jewelry because she's also a jewelry artist. But aside from my family, there are those, every time I meet someone who has a specific gift, I make a note of that and keep it and field it to either someone else in the artist world that needs them, or that I can use myself. But it works. It works straight across the board. And who else has insight with that? Sharon, sorry.
Yeah, for me, when it comes to collaborations, I love collaboration. First, it begins with the relationships.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, first, it's like you build the relationship. And I'm finding it wonderful because I collaborate, just like Ken was saying, I collaborate all around the world with people.
Exactly.
And I mean, it is so marvelous, but it still comes back even virtually, because like I said, I do everything virtually. You still can break through the screen and establish a relationship. And then the other part is you, in that relationship, you start seeing the connections that you have and stuff just starts happening. But everybody cannot collaborate, and everybody cannot collaborate on everything. And so, when you start forcing collaborations, and then you have people with head trips, and then again, relationships, you find out what it is people want out of it. And if they're really not on the same wavelength, as if you're looking for money, you're looking for, you've got all these issues, then you're not really focusing on the work. And I'm a collaborator who wants to get the job done. And so it really, my family, I'm just blessed that I gave birth to my best collaborator, my daughter. And I mean, we collaborated on this amazing project for Silver Spring under the baobab tree. And it just becomes, I think Bhavna said, a flow comes out of it. And when you get into that zone, you get into that flow. Who's it? Michael Jordan talks about when you get into that flow and people are together. I mean, it's love. It's love. Collaboration is love.
No question about that. I forgot to mention Sahar and I have collaborated on events, and it's so much fun. But to your point, Sharon, it is, I use the quote all of the time that says that I do business 9 to 5, I do social work after 5. So if I'm collaborating, it is somebody who professionally can step up to the grade.
Yes.
Otherwise, they are that's social work, and that's after 5. But 9 to 5 is business, and art is a business. It is absolutely a business. And so you have to address it in that way. And that's it. But do we have another question, Lisa?
I don't know. Do we have another question or comment from the audience or from the women themselves?
Ladies?
I'd like to say just something, speaking of collaboration, Lisa, Martin, I think you're an incredible collaborator. I watch you from afar through your posts and your journeys and your sharings, and you deserve some high kudos and acknowledgement for how you do bring people together in the most wild variety, and constancy. And your cheerleadering, I hope that you take that in the right way, of the arts of every kind. And so I just want to say that to you concerning collaboration. You are like one of the queens in my view.
She has to work with so many different kinds of people. Yeah.
There's no question about that. And Lisa has the capacity to call on any one of us and say, okay, you have to do this. And we say yes. I mean, it is just understood. But that is part of what collaboration is about. It's that she's walked that mile and proven that, one, she's effective, and two, that she's serious. And so we follow her. And all you're missing is the Pied Pipe. That's it.
I think that's also part of, if you're doing, Lisa does amazing work of bringing people together. It's the same kind of energy that's needed if you're working on a piece of work.
Exactly.
On a particular object, is that someone has to know the knowledge of the materials you're working with. I'm really big on the whole idea of people coming with skills and people coming with a sense of wanting to see the product, not knowing what the product's going to be. So I think that moving people around, that's an amazing, that's a gift. That's a gift. That's
serious, isn't it?
Rare. That's serious. Moving people and right now. But when working, collaborating, whether it's music or choreography, you have to have a level of skill, and you have to have experience And when you get with people who have had that kind of experience, like tonight we've done a collaboration. For me, this whole experience is a collaboration. We've brought our skills, we've brought our experiences, and we've made this film, we've made this recording, a la Zoom. So, you know, that's collaboration really comes in many different formats, but it comes with people wanting to be there and have the skill to be there.
I think you're absolutely correct. And what's important in understanding, and certainly Lisa has a good handle on this, is listening to people and being open to hearing what their gifts are and what their skills are, because you know, you cannot, as you said, collaborate with everybody, but you do have to be able to recognize who you can collaborate with. If you get into a situation and it's not working, get out. Don't hit your head up against the wall continuously. Get out and start all over again, you know?
Right. It's really about creative connections, you know, just scanning your environment, you know, the people in your life that you meet, maybe the, you know, people that you wouldn't normally expect to do a presentation. I've often invited people for the first time to give talks about something that they do, that they love to do. And yeah, I mean, even like our tiny house building artists, you know, which are all abilities under Marcy Wolf Hubbard, I couldn't understand why the people were so passionate about it. And then I finally took the class and I got it. I understood, because it was all about people sharing either their past and their memories, good memories of childhood, or their dreams, you know, of the future, and hopes and dreams, and kind of putting them into a diorama of a fantasy house, you know, and then we would bring them together again for doing a tiny house tour, which works great virtually, because we've had to do a lot of virtual programming during COVID, and then it kind of became something we mainly do during the cold half of the year, because a lot of our participants enjoy being able to connect virtually as well. So we do have a mix though of in person and even just our, you know, it's also, I always gave the example, like when I took the job with SSTCI, there was not very much money. They were bringing in $2,000 a year. And I had to build it up from the ground. And I just started looking to see who can I invite to create a program, interesting events. And it's kind of like build it and they will come, you know, worry about the money later. So there's the old fable of the three monks wandering through the mountains, and they want to make stone soup, and all they have is stone. They don't even have the water or the pot. And then they get the community, they get their village to contribute. And before you know it, you know, you've got all the spices, the water, the broth, the meat and veggies, and then you have this big feast to share. So eventually, you know, if you start doing it, bringing people together, then it will just build from there. And you know, these kind of events where we bring people together who might not otherwise meet often end up collaborating later too. So, you know, maybe someone will need a henna artist, you know, down the road, or, you know, I'm sure a lot of you will come to Karina's event with Polyphony Marimba when they come to town, and Sahar's doing her talk with us on Wednesday, and then we'll have, we have our big event on Friday night. I hope many of you can join us, but this has really been terrific. So I appreciate everyone's contributions. Thank you so much to Elaine Robnett Moore for hosting us.
Yeah, thank you.
I'll turn it over to you guys for final words before we close.
Sharon, your final words?
Well, I guess I'll say what I always say is this has been wonderful and I appreciate it. I have learned more. I'm inspired and I wish everyone, this is a great way to end Women's Month or almost ending it. I think this has been something I've been looking forward to. And I'm meeting some people I've met, some people I've seen. So I just want to I wish you good health, keep being creative, and stay safe, whether you're physical, virtual, or hybrid. Just do what you got to do to keep healthy and pray that wealth will follow.
Thank you. Thank you. Siha?
I thank you so much, Lisa, first of all, for always being inclusive of everybody. And I've enjoyed listening to everybody tonight. And I'm always inspired when I hear what everyone else is doing. And Karina, at some point, I'm going to get down there in New Mexico, if that's an open invitation.
Absolutely.
I'd love to come. And I look forward to seeing some of you perhaps on Wednesday and to join the conversation. And I'm currently costuming a show, which I do every year for Prince George's County Flowers High School, the amazing kids, all singing and dancing, most of whom have never done it before.
Let's make noise.
Huh?
Noise. I'm sorry, I was telling my boyfriend not to make too much noise with the dishes.
Oh, I know.
I
I've
thought
had
I
to
muted.
sue my husband several times. But the show opens April 13th. If you have a mind or are interested in coming to see what teenagers are doing that's positive, come and see some great singing and dancing, and they're celebrating Motown. It's all Motown, all our age group.
And so feel free to put any announcements in the chat too, so we can follow up.
Bhavna?
Good night.
Yeah. First of all, thank you, Lisa. And so sorry that I got in so late. I just had a bunch of things to do and it went out of my mind that I was supposed to be here. That's the truth. I just lost track of time. But I appreciate you all and it's just nice to meet new people. And I love Santa Fe. I've been there before. It's so pretty. I just love the vibe. And about collaborations, I wanted to say, if I don't get a vibe from someone, which is good energy, I will never collaborate with them, whether it's $1 million. So if you feel a little off inside, stay back because that will come back to bite you.
Exactly. Karina?
Yeah, what I want to say is, Sharon, you mentioned something about when we were talking about collaboration, and you said it's love, it's love. And I so believe that. The other thing that I wanted to throw in there with that love is that it's also trust, that if we trust each other, right, and allow for that, and also trust ourselves, which comes back to the whole courage thing. And then someone, I can't remember who it is, my apologies. Well, first I want to say, Elaine, thank you as a moderator. You're awesome. You really make me feel safe and confident and happy. And so I want you to know that I really appreciated that. And someone brought up the creator. So I just want to definitely, give all kudos to our beautiful creator who give us all the gift of all of this. What a wonderful thing. And last thing that I want to say is, teach me more. Somebody mentioned about Be Fly. Someone said, if you want to be fly, I think it was about the beautiful garments that you make. So I want to learn about that. Those are my final thoughts.
Thank you, Karina. And my final thoughts first of all, let me do a little advertising, and that is that for anyone who is interested in learning how to make jewelry, even a lot of my students are already advanced jewelry makers. So we work more on design than just the idea of assembling the jewelry. And I do private classes and I'm available. I also do groups and have taught worldwide and continue and will probably be going back overseas the end of this year to Kenya and to Rwanda. In the meantime, jewelry is always available to show by appointment in my studio. The last major show I did was the Smithsonian Craft to Wear show. So that was exciting. And we also participated in the American Craft Council, but not as doing a demonstration for the Smithsonian's African American Initiative program. And in the meantime, of course, there's Montgomery County Arts and Humanities Council, and we keep art alive in this county by providing and supporting our artists, and we are happy to do that. It is such a delight to serve on a board that has the best interest of the arts in their hearts and in our pens as we sign checks. So keep that in mind. Don't hesitate to apply. We're always ready to assist those who apply if they need some help and direction. That said, a shout out to my grandson, who is one of the audience members today, and who also collaborated with me on my last book. I'm very proud of that. So that my grandson is Hugh Vincent. So that said, Lisa, thank you again for being who you are and forcing us to get out of our own way and collaborate with each other. So that's a very good thing. And it's a very high gift and a serious art. So I thank you for that. And I thank the panelists. I've learned a lot. I'm so impressed. Some I know and some I don't know, but I do now. And so I thank you for being part of this panel and for putting up with me. And so thank you. Lisa?
Thank you so much to Elaine Robnett-Moore for hosting our sixth annual Women in the Arts panel, which featured Shruti Mukund, Sharon Lee Miner, Karina Swing, Sahar Pirzada, and Bhavna Naik. Thank you again, everyone. Have a great rest of the evening, and we look forward to seeing you Wednesday for Sahar's program and then Friday at our bazaar. Thank you. Have a good rest of the evening, and happy Women's History Month.